Hi, this is Joseph Williams, son of John Williams, and you are watching the Nerf Herder Council.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. I am your host, JT. We are live on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, and the Facebook page and YouTube channel of the Virtual Cantina Network. We are also streaming live on the Nerf Herder Council Twitch page. We are live at those locations every other Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. As always, we are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. If you are watching on YouTube, don't forget to click that like button and the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you are notified every time we go live. If you guys would like to get some great Virtual Cantina Network swag, just go to tpublic.com/user/virtual-cantina. And if you would like to get some kick-ass, customizable, multi-logo Nerf Herder Council swag, just go to shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. Without further ado, please allow me to introduce the Bucky Barnes to my Steve Rogers. He is, of course, my brother, AJ. What's going on, man?
That's a hell of an intro. Okay, yeah, I'll take it. That means that I'm probably not nearly as charismatic, but I've shown up in more shit.
Very true. Very true. But I'm an all-American hero, so there you go. I win.
Yeah, true. True.
So
man, how you been?
I'm good. I'm good. It's very stressful at work, very, very busy. But you know, we'll get through it. It's just that's life, so to speak. I'm just hoping our connection gets better because I'm getting notices in the chat here saying having trouble connecting. Please check your internet connection. So if you guys are commenting, I'm not seeing anything. Yeah, it's definitely. Oh, I was getting that little stupid like notification that like, oh, it's unstable. Like it's not unstable. DQ, what's up, man? John Godfrey, great to see you, brother. He says finally talking about the man. I know, dude. Captain America is just a great topic for me. I'm very much looking forward to this. Lucas Spoken checking in. Good to see you, man. Luke, by the way, amazing job on that orchestral Dream Theater track. I completely forgot to respond to you on that. You kicked ass on that. So we'll talk more about that on the other show. But yeah, so I'm excited to talk about Cap. He's my favorite, probably my third favorite movie character. I think. Wow. You know, he's. Okay. I mean, and I'm not a big like comic book guy, but he's by far my favorite Avenger.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I mean, I've said it many times on the show. I'm a huge fan of the first Captain America movie, the first Avenger. I just think that is like cinematic perfection. So Billy Judd checking in. Great to see you, man. He says, hey guys, great to see you, man. Thanks for jumping on. So yeah, you know, I love all the Cap movies. He's just an awesome character for me. He's just behind Han Solo and Indiana Jones. And you're welcome, Luke. You're welcome. So yeah, this is gonna be cool, dude. We have a new movie coming out, so we kind of wanted to kind of go back and talk a little bit of Captain America to kind of, you know, as like a primer for, you know, Brave New World, which is coming out. You know, all the first showings are 2 weeks from tomorrow, I think, because it'd be the 13th, correct? Yeah, like the day before Valentine's Day. So where do you stand?
Now's a good time. Yeah, it's amazing how long it's been. You know, we've talked Marvel movies, we've ranked the entire Infinity Saga phases 1 through 3, and yet we've never really broken it down like per character. So maybe this will become a little like sub-series on the show, but yeah, Captain America itself, like looking at these movies, they're so different from one another. And I love that, because what I found in rewatching these is that not only are they, you know, so different from one another, but it's not because Steve Rogers changes through all of them. It's that the circumstances in the world around him changes. So it's really interesting to say like, oh, he went on such a journey when actually he stayed the same and it was everything else that changed.
Yeah.
It's usually like, you know, the hero grows up and learns a lesson and he's a different character at the end. Like, no, Steve Rogers was always Steve Rogers, which I love.
Yeah.
I love that they could make stories out of like, let's throw him in some other weird situation and see the way he behaves this time.
Yeah, I think that's for me like kind of like the appeal. It sounds kind of stupid, I suppose, but he's just so all-American and so good and just always takes the high road. You know, I mean, come on. My other two favorite characters are Han Solo and Indiana Jones. They're not exactly known for, following the rules, and Han is a scoundrel and stuff like that. And I know it can be, you know, boring, I guess, for somebody to be as nice and good as Cap is, but I think I kind of like that. It's almost like, kind of with the way, I hate to phrase it this way, but the way things are going in the world. But when things are getting kind of dark and all that, and it happens in the movies too, in the MCU, he is that just straight arrow. Like he's like always at the tip of the spear, I love it. And for some reason it just resonates. And the character always resonated with me anyway. It's one of those things as a little kid, you first see Captain America, you're like, that guy's cool. I mean, what kid isn't patriotic? So
And that's the thing that I love is that, like, yes, he starts out as a patriotic character. Like his whole thing is that he's all about American values in World War II. And then America gets away from it, and he's always the guy there being like, no, this is what we were, this is what we stand for.
Yeah,
you guys just forgot.
exactly.
And I love that, because like you said, man, it mirrors reality a little bit too much. But also remember, these movies came out between 2011 and 2016, so it's not like this is new. This has been a theme for a long time now, and it's just in today's day and age, so to speak, it still resonates because it's a timeless reminder of like, oh yeah, we do have values and morals, and what happens when the world gets too complicated for them.
Isn't that kind of like a metaphor in the beginning of the very first Cap film, when he's like, he's buried in ice? It's almost metaphoric, isn't it? Like all those, the old school 40s kind of, World War II generation, those morals have been just completely discarded. They're a thing of the past, and they do call him a fossil at times. Like it's kind of metaphoric, I've always thought, So
it is a bit on the nose. You're right. Like he's frozen in time and ice.
Yeah, exactly. So our good friend Joseph Friend, Discuss Metal Joe, great to see you, brother. He says, Steve Rogers was always Steve Rogers. AJ, I need a shirt of that. John Phillips, great to see you, man. He says, haven't been excited for a Marvel film since Endgame. Maybe this will be good. I have my doubts, though. Nick Hall, he says, Steve Rogers is potato salad. You know what you're in for. Yeah, I'll give you that, dude. I will give you that. And what is okay? Joseph Friend says, at Nick Hall, not true. Hot potato salad is a thing, and it's better. Nick thinks it sounds sketchy. And Chastity Crawley says, Joe, hot potato salad like with hot mayo? Can you say food poisoning?
Yeah, I'm wondering now if this means spicy or if you're supposed to like warm this stuff. Like, ugh.
Yeah.
I don't like potato salad anyway, but
yeah, I don't either.
Ugh.
But I do love me some Captain America. Billy Judd, why didn't Chris Evans return as Steve Rogers? You got to watch what's the show called? Winter Soldier and
Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Falcon and Winter Soldier, yeah. Yeah, that's explained. So John Godfrey. But is he Star-Lord's
I think
grandpa?
Billy Judd might be referring to the Chris Evans cameo in Deadpool and Wolverine.
Oh, because he was the other guy first. He was Human Torch first.
Yeah, he was Johnny Storm in the Fantastic movies first. So yeah, Fantastic Four movies. Sorry.
Lucas spoken again with good taste. He says the Cap trilogy is my favorite MCU trilogy, along with the Guardians of the Galaxy films. Now we're talking. See, Luke, you got Dream Theater, you got Captain America. You just keep racking them up, man.
I will say, of the original Avengers lineup trilogy movies, so you had like Iron Man 1, 2, and 3, Thor 1, 2, and 3, Cap 1, 2, and 3. I think Captain America is probably the best overall. I'm not sure if it gets better with each movie, but it definitely improves, and I think there's more to it. Like the consistency is there. You know what I mean? Like Iron Man 3 is 2 is really kind of So as great as Iron Man is, I don't think his trilogy stands up to the Captain America films.
No, I would completely agree with that. I mean, look, let's face it. I mean, for me, it's no contest because First Avenger is my favorite Marvel movie. It's one of my all-time favorite movies because you're combining a World War II era, like a World War II era piece, which I love that time period. I'm a big history buff. And you're combining that with Captain Fucking America. Sorry. The views of the Nerf Herder Council don't necessarily reflect those of the Virtual Cantina Network, and there might be some swearing on the show, like I just did.
We need to turn that into a drinking game.
Dude, we need to turn it into a damn banner at the bottom of the screen. Is what we need to do.
Drink every time John swears before he reminds people there might be swearing.
Right. Exactly. Nicole, and there's the disclaimer. Chastity JT, where's your banner? I haven't made that one yet, actually. But yeah, you know, for me, like I say, First Avengers, my favorite movie. Winter Soldier ranks right at the top for pretty much every MCU fan. So those right there. I mean, Captain America 3 is, you know, Civil War. I mean, it's good. It's more Avengers 2.5 than it is a Cap movie. I kind of feel like, but yeah, and if you're comparing it to the Iron Man trilogy, like the first one obviously is just awesome. Personally, I like Iron Man 2 a lot better than most people. Iron Man 3 is the one I really didn't get into. I even in the theater when come to find out the Mandarin wasn't an actual, it was just some act. I'm like, oh man, what is this?
Yeah, that fake out was bullshit.
Yeah, I didn't like that. And then, you know, like there's like a million Iron Man suits. I'm like, okay, like I mean, it was cool. I mean, it's definitely not one of my favorites, but I mean, everyone's bringing up the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy, you know, as a competitor. I would say so.
Dude, that's how tuned out of Marvel movies I am. I forgot there's 3 of those.
Yeah, I haven't seen the third one.
Guardians. I'm like, there's only 2 though. No, there was a third one, and I watched it. I mean, it had a friggin' otter in it. Of course, I watched it.
I keep forgetting to finish that one. So, like,
boy, is that an indictment? No, it is actually really good though.
Yeah, and that's what my wife says. I just that happened as I was really in my fuck the multiverse kind of mindset, and so I kind of like tuned out to it in a way. I was just like agitated. So
the one movie that didn't address the multiverse in that era, and you chose not to watch it.
Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much, man.
No, so you really glommed onto the first Captain America movie way more than me. I know, like you said, you're a history buff. I get that, but like, was there something more to it that grabbed you on that one?
Yeah, I love the story. I'm always a big fan of like when something's explained that you already know the ending. Like Rogue One is a perfect example. We know they get the Death Star plans. We've known that all along.
Mm-hmm.
But what's the story there? Can you tell the story well to where it's cool, to where it's not just clunking along and shitty? And then look, we got the Death Star plans. You know, they pop out of a friggin' claw machine at a Chuck E. Cheese or some shit. You know,
right?
You know, and I think Captain America was like that. Like we know he's this scrawny little dude, and he's all American, and he takes this, you know, the super soldier serum, and off we go. So, hey, what's up, Kale? Kale McLeish tuning in. He says, "Hey, dudes, how's it going? Going good, man." By the way, John Godfrey agrees with me. He says, "I think Iron Man 2 is damn good. It definitely is." But yeah, I think, you know, I love the story that it tells, and it's, you know, I think it's got a lot of heart to it with the whole best friend angle, and you know, in a short period of time they establish how close Bucky and Steve are, and then, you know, Bucky gets ripped away from him and everything, and I just loved how they did it, and you know, the whole the self-sacrifice at the end, and you know, the whole blossoming love story with what's her nuts, and Agent Carter. There we go. I couldn't think of her name for a second.
Good to see you've done your homework for this episode.
Dude. Forget it, he's rolling. Yeah. I just like the story. I love how they did it, and it just, you know, how heroic he was, and how I love how delineated everything was on such a base level. Captain America obviously is super, super good, and Red Skull super, super bad, and let's fight. Like, it's just sometimes the simplicity of it there is awesome. You know, it's like Luke Skywalker versus Darth Vader at the end of Empire. Before you know he's, you know, their father and son. It's like, here's the ultimate good guy versus the ultimate bad guy. Sometimes you just want that. You don't want the gray area. So
yeah, it is. That's what I love about this. having watched these again, like back to back to back, is like you said, it's such a simple start. They didn't need to overcomplicate it. Like, here's the ultimate good guy because he's against the Nazis, first off. And also, like morally, like he always does the right thing just anyway.
Yeah.
And it's a great starting point for the character. I don't think this movie would have worked if they didn't have other Captain America movies after it, though. It would have just been a flat movie, right? Like it's just there to establish Captain America as a character. Red Skull, like you said, is kind of boring. He's just a bad guy. He's not really interesting. And then Cap gets frozen. That's it. Like, boom. And it really feels like the start of a story, not like a story unto itself. Do you know what I mean?
That's, if I had to think of it in those terms, I could see that. I mean, yeah, it really is kind of like you lose Bucky, what happened to him? Red Skull, gets defeated, and then Cap gets frozen. I mean, it's self-contained, but I think, yeah, it is more.
There was nothing in that first movie that said Bucky was going to show up again, ever.
The only way we knew it was all the comic book nerds being like, "Hey, that's the Winter Soldier."
Yeah, and see, I didn't. So when they like harped on that, I'm like, I don't understand why this one guy of all the Howling Commandos was so important. Even into Winter Soldier, when like Cap is basically willing to lay his life down for this guy, I'm like, I didn't get that from the first movie. I didn't get that like this guy was that much more special. Yeah, I mean, he was the guy
you didn't.
Not really. Like, yeah, I mean, they had their moments before the super soldier serum got introduced, and Bucky gets in and Steve doesn't because he's medically unfit and everything. But then I don't know. That was one thing I had a hard time with, actually, with Steve Rogers as a character. Is like, I get that he's your best friend, but man, the lengths to which you are willing to go for this one dude is like, oof. Because he compromises his own morals a lot. He's like, I'm willing to die, even though it's better if I don't for everybody. And I'm going to protect this guy who very much is my enemy. Like, he's trying to kill me and he stands for things that I don't. But I'm going to try to save him anyway, even though it pits me against the people I'm supposed to be representing.
So you're talking about like Winter Soldier, like later. You're not talking about First Avenger, in other words.
No, not First Avenger. No.
Okay,
But that's like when Bucky gets yeeted off the train. I'm like, whatever. Okay, that sucks.
Yeeted.
one of your team died. In the first movie, it didn't seem significant enough to explain how important that character became.
Okay.
I don't know if they were trying for that. Maybe like you said, they knew where they were going with the story, so I'm sure they were deliberately setting that up. But it felt, as someone who didn't know the comic backstory, that it was more like a retcon.
Okay.
Like a Luke, I am your father moment, where like nothing was hinted at in A New Hope that said Vader was Luke's dad.
Yeah, I mean, Chastity says, but if you have that type of friend, you go to those lengths. I know for my BFF, I would do just about anything for him, no questions asked. Yeah, I mean, I see, but again, I that's why I like it. I think because it is, Nick Hall said it's very paint by numbers, but it works as an origin. John Godfrey DQ
as an origin, yes.
I mean, it says, John Godfrey DQ. He says ultimate setup movie. Yeah. Okay. Kale says it does set him up, but yeah, it doesn't make a heap of sense once he is Cap. I would disagree with that, Kale. I would disagree with that.
Yeah, I think the best part, my favorite part about the way they told his origin story, you would expect it would be something simple like he gets the serum. Holy crap, this dude's invincible. He goes and fights Nazis. I love the wrinkle where they're like, oh, you're a PR tool now. We're going to put you on tour and rally. Yeah. You're not actually going to fight. Even though you're the best soldier we've got, you're just marketing. You're propaganda.
Well, and that's what was cool, man. Like, again, it wasn't, like I can kind of compare it to, and I think Joe's got a great point here I want to bring up in a second, but I kind of compare it to the whole Anakin Skywalker thing, where I love the prequel so much because it wasn't just like, I'm a snotty kid, now I'm an asshole teenager, now I'm the biggest bad guy in the galaxy. Like there was reasoning behind it. It wasn't just a straight line. It was, okay, well, his mother was taken from him and all this kind of stuff. He's doing it for Padme. And I would say, with Steve Rogers, it's, with the whole Captain America thing, it's kind of the same way. At least in the first Avenger, I should say, because it's like, they didn't just go, okay, he's Steve Rogers, he's the ultimate American, shoot him up with the super serum, okay, he's out kicking ass. Like, no, they're like, dude, you're a freak. We're gonna like go sell war bonds. Like he had to kind of come through the ranks and basically prove on that rescue mission, the one-man rescue mission, that like, yeah, this is I'm worth more than this. So it was cool. Like they kind of had that little swerve in there, So I thought it was awesome. I really liked it, and Joe says it's self-contained. It's a good walk first, then run to get him to the Avengers timeline. We're all tired of origin stories, but when this came out, it mattered. You have to get Cap into the fight. Yeah, and I mean, at that point, we knew that what was going on with, potentially establishing the Avengers and stuff like that, and we kind of knew where it was going. And so to get Captain America in it, I think it was a perfect setup to it, because it was like, okay, well, now you've got this super good guy. He's not just, one of these other people who's like kind of ambiguous at times. Tony Stark is a snot, and the Hulk is, the Hulk. So, I for that reason, I think it works really well.
Yeah, and the other thing that I noticed, I love doing these kinds of things where we get to like reslice things by watching it in a different order. Like when you just watch these in isolation without all the other movies in between, it hits different, right?
Yeah.
And the thing that struck me, knowing where the saga goes for this character in particular, is that first mission that first rescue mission where he defies orders to go rescue people.
Yeah.
So it shows that he's not just like, okay, so yeah, the American military, quote, made him, but he's not just going to follow orders blindly because that's what a good soldier does.
Yeah.
He showed that slightly rebellious streak, that part of him that says, I'm going to do what's right no matter what my orders tell me.
Yeah.
So he's not just blindly following. He's patriotic in the first movie because he agrees with those morals and values, not because that's what he's told to say and believe. And
yeah.
I love that about him. And that's why it works so well, because then you can take that character, put him in any situation, and he's going to keep saying and doing the same stuff, even though the situation is different, because it's not just he was told to do this by a higher ranking officer. That's what he believes.
Yeah.
And I love that about this guy. Yeah. That part was really fun to watch, was that like, he wasn't the stupid goody two shoes, It'd be too easy to just be like, well, it's the right thing to do, so I'm just going to do it. He's like, no, I believe in this, and I have reasons for believing in this.
Yeah. Oh, I completely agree. Kill McLeish. He can do this all day. Yes. Yeah, no, I completely agree with you there. And, another aspect of it, I think, to go along with, that aspect of the character, which is, he will go against orders if he believes, his all-American ways is more quote unquote right. I think the casting was a perfect choice too, because, not to really like make it an extreme comparison, but if you think about like the Greatest American Hero, I get it. It was a cheesy like 80s TV show, whatever, but that little scrawny bastard with his little poofy, stupid, curly blonde fro, you're like, that's no superhero. And if that guy, like, you could never picture that guy doing anything. Like, you can't cast a guy like that with a countenance like that. Like, Chris Evans, it just
banger of a theme song, though. I mean, you're hearing it in your head right now as soon as you name drop that.
That's true. My wife could still sing the whole damn thing. But yeah, like, I think the casting was excellent for that. Mm-hmm. Because, Chris Evans, like, he's got that all-American look and he can be like the serious guy, but it's not like you said, like it's not like the sappy good guy where there's, you can't possibly picture him going against orders or going against the grain a little bit, um I think that he was a perfect choice for that. So, I think that plays a lot into it for me as well, because I just, I buy his portrayal and him as the guy to, wear the suit. So I think that's, a huge aspect of it. Yeah, I don't know. The whole first movie just works so well for me. Man, when I first I saw it opening night with Trolls with Pat, and the first time I'd seen him in quite a while. We just had been talking, kind of reconnected after a minute, and um, we just got talking about Captain America, and I was like, I'm so excited. He's like, really? Let's go. I'm like, okay. So you know, drove out
Mhm.
and went to the Medina Regal, and man, we were both like, oh my god, that movie is so good. Like,
I am surprised how good it still holds up too, because Red Skull, that was the start of the Marvel villain problem. That guy had
okay.
no dimension to him whatsoever. Like,
John
was it even
Phillips.
explained like how he became the Red Skull, like why he, had a red skull instead of a regular human head?
Well, in the John Phillips, you don't sing it between renditions of Your Love, JT? No greatest American, no greatest American hero in the BBM set list, unfortunately. Well, it was my understanding that it was just, one of those super serum gone wrong types of things. It wasn't, the one that they knew worked. He was making his own, I guess, and
Mhm.
just kind of effed him up a little bit. So, um, yeah, that was my understanding. But I mean, so all right, so you said the start of the Marvel villain problem. Like, what?
The
First of all,
villains are
explain what the
usually
villain.
flat and disposable. Like they're just mustache twirling archetypes. They have no interesting backstory or motivation. It's just, I'm evil. I'm against the good guys. Like there's usually never a good reason for villains to be villains. Thanos is the exception, of course. But most of them are like they get introduced and disposed of in a single movie, and that's it.
Well, I mean, you can't. I mean, what are you gonna do? Like, have like the Suicide Squad running around? Like Red Skull survives, and then the evil dwarves survive, and freaking
No, you,
Obadiah Stane. Like, I mean, like eventually they're running around with Thanos. Like, hey Thanos, we got your back. Like, you know,
no, you do something like Batman, where they all end up in Arkham Asylum, so they can break out 37 times and ruin your life,
right? The Rogues Gallery.
and make a great trilogy of video games.
I was just about to say that. I was just about to say that. Oh my god, that's awesome. Yeah.
But yeah, so many of these Marvel movies, you're like, oh, that was great, man. That hero's so cool. Name the villain. Like no one remembers because they don't care. They're given like
You
no
think?
time to build up that conflict. Like I'm one of the weird people. This is a tangent, but um, maybe we should save it for the Guardians trilogy show that we'll do at some point. But I always thought that oh god, who's the name of the guy in the first Guardians movie? Who are they fighting? The purple dude with the big hammer.
The purple what?
Oh no, he's got a blue face and the black eye makeup coming down. He's got the hood.
Oh yeah, Ronan.
Ronan the Accuser. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. I
That's
always
such a
thought he
cool
looked
name.
cool as shit, and I kind of liked his
Yeah.
backstory. And they're like, he was one of the worst Marvel villains ever. I'm like, really? They actually
Not
gave
in
him a reason to exist. That
Yeah,
was
not in
actually
the
interesting.
I he may have been one of the worst Marvel villains ever, but not in the movies. He was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was
Yeah,
purposely pissing on Thanos and everything. Like, that was cool.
yeah,
I
yeah.
agree with you.
I thought he was really cool, but they said he was one of those flat guys like in Doctor Strange, Caecilius.
Yeah, that's the one. I know. I would have called him. I would have just called him Mads Mikkelsen. I'm like,
Right.
who?
Yeah, but there's so many of the Marvel movies have that problem. Or, take Thor, for example, especially the Dark World. I mean, Thor 1, it was Loki. He kind of turned out kind of neat. But yeah, Thor 2, it was the Dark Elf.
Oh God.
God, what
Yeah,
the hell was his name? See, I can't even remember the name of these guys. They're so forgettable.
that movie I still
Malekith.
don't. Yeah,
I know I'd get it eventually.
I don't see
or
Ragnarok
Whiplash
was
and
good.
Iron Man 2. You know,
Oh,
yeah, the
no
list-
way, dude. Whiplash was awesome. I want
my
my
bird.
bird. I want my bird.
That's what you remember about the guy. You remember, I
No,
want my birds. You
dude,
remember Mickey Rourke putting on a terrible accent.
his weapon was awesome. The whips, the electrified whips, those were great. Dude, I love that movie. Okay, I'm just gonna say I love Iron Man 2. I think it's great. And
Okay,
I really
so
like
maybe
Whiplash.
we need to do another sub theme that is called movies that are better than you remember.
We could rank
Or
the
bad
Marvel
movies
villains.
we love. I don't know. We'll do something.
We should rank the Marvel villains in each of the movies.
Ooh, that'd be
And you can't use
okay.
you can't use Thanos. Oh, I guess you could use Thanos, but I mean,
Well, he's number one. End of story. I don't think we need to have any suspense on that one.
yeah, true.
But beyond that, yeah, it'd be interesting. But yeah, Red Skull was just there because, like you said, you needed a Nazi to fight, and you couldn't have him kill Hitler. So
Yeah. Well, that was another kind of cool aspect of the first one with the Red Skull. He was basically like kind of like looking down his nose at Hitler, like this guy's a dingbat. Like he's like,
right.
And the Fuhrer digs for trinkets in the desert or something like that. Like he's just basically this guy's a chump. Like I'm onto bigger things. So that was particularly cool.
It is a bummer that we never got the Red Skull with. Man, I suck with names when I'm on the spot. Who the hell played
Hugo Weaving?
Hugo Weaving, thank you. Yeah, it sucks that we never got him back as Red Skull again.
Yeah,
he was pretty awesome. I mean,
he was
basically Agent Smith with makeup, but still, it's fine.
It was so, dude. See, that's why I asked about your whole thing about the Marvel problem, and I think Red Skull's kind of disposable. I thought he was awesome. I was like, this is great. I thought it was really cool.
No, see, this is the other part of the Marvel villain problem in the MCU is not that the villains are bad; it's that the movies don't do them justice. Like they're just as compelling as the heroes, but they just don't spend enough time in the movies making them that way. Yeah, I mean, Hugo Weaving is Red Skull. You're going to give Hugo Weaving dog shit for a character? Like, no, man, that dude could absolutely stand toe to toe with Chris Evans if you gave him something to work with.
But he was standing toe to toe with him.
I'm evil and I needed an army, so I'm a Nazi, I guess. Okay, why are you evil? What is your goal? What are you trying to do, man?
He's trying to take over the world. They showed it on the map.
Why? At least like Thanos explained it.
What do you mean, why?
That's the Marvel problem, is that villains are evil for evil's sake, not because they're trying to accomplish something.
What? Now you're just being a nitpicker. What the hell is he supposed to do?
I'll compare. Within Captain America, go on to Cap 2 or Cap 3. Name the villain or the antagonist, we'll say.
Well, in Cap 2 is like Hydra, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So and Cap 3,
it's Hydra, which kind of is Shield.
Yeah.
And it's Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Now that's compelling as hell. It's like, oh shit, it's my former best friend.
See, you know what? And
it's the organization that I thought I was representing that is actually evil. Like, that's cool.
See, okay, Nick Hall mentioned Zola. See, Nick, I think Zola's I think he's part of it. But and when you say Winter Soldier, I've never seen him as like a villain in that movie. I always see him as like more of a tragic figure, I guess, like to use a cliche. Hit them off at the pass. I hate that cliche. Because I've always looked at it as like the whole Hydra Shield thing is the major problem here. So I've never looked at it as like Winter Soldier's like the be all end all. You know, so I guess I'm a little different in that respect. I mean, and then the third one, you know, it's kind of like them versus each other in a way.
Well, that's why I said like not villain but antagonist. Because yeah, Bucky was just following orders. He was brainwashed. But who did Cap fight? Bucky.
Yeah. Great fight too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See, Luke says it. Alexander Pierce is the real villain of Winter Soldier for me. Yeah, that's kind of how I've always seen it too.
That's the thing. Like Steve Rogers thought he was representing America and was answering to the government and all the, you know, people in charge, and then found out, oh wait, they're actually the bad guys. Now what do I do?
Yeah.
The people I answer to are the bad guys. That was cool as hell.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
So,
but yeah,
oh, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say I would just disagree that Red Skull's disposable. I thought that was I love that character. He would rate very highly on my Marvel villains list.
Okay, we'll have to table that for another day then, because I mean the only other time we saw him was guarding the Soul Stone.
Guardying?
So, guardying, yep.
He was guardying it.
He was guardying the Soul Stone. That's one for our audio viewers out there.
Yeah, I just want to give a little teaser of that upcoming episode where we do rank the Marvel villains. My number 1 is going to be the guy who came up with the goddamn idea for the multiverse. That's the biggest villain for me. Fuck that guy.
You'd have to go back decades into Marvel's comic history for that one, dude. Sorry.
Okay, the guy who decided to bring it into the films. Because
we should have tackled this in our ranking the Infinity Saga films as a thing. Like once you've literally threatened the entire universe, or at least half the entire universe, where do you go from there? Well, you got to threaten more than one universe, I guess, if you want to up the stakes. So yeah, they wrote themselves into that corner. But that's always the problem.
I completely agree. I'm not like, I don't know. That's a whole nother topic. That's a whole nother topic. But
yeah.
Look at Kale's putting music into these things. He says there are some great songs that could have been used in Iron Man 2. Give me Metallica for the villain. Yeah, okay, Whiplash, yeah. Sabbath for the main hero. Okay, obviously. And then AC/DC or Kiss for Colonel Rhodes for Rhodey.
Well, you can't use AC/DC for Rhodey because Tony Stark already uses AC/DC.
Yeah. Kiss War Machine. Because I'm a war machine.
A bit on the nose, but sure, why not?
Yeah, that's exactly what he's doing. He's doing Whiplash, Iron Man, and War Machine. So apparently there must be an AC/DC song called War Machine.
You sure it's not called Don Cheadle or Cuba Gooding Jr.?
Yeah.
They have one called Recast.
What?
Well, because Rhodey was Cuba Gooding Jr. in the first movie, and then he was
no, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. He was oh god, I always forget that guy's name. Who played James Rhodes in Iron Man 1? I always forget this guy. I'm gonna kick myself. Terrence Howard.
Terrence Howard. Shit, sorry, not Cuba Gooding Jr. My bad.
Yeah, I was like default to Cuba Gooding Jr. I'm like, no, it's not him. It's not him. It's not him. But
hey, maybe they'll recast him again. Don Cheadle's getting a little old, so that's Cuba's opening right there.
See, that's what they could do. Now that the Infinity Saga's over, they could just have like the retirement saga and have them all like old and stuff.
Well, I think this is actually what they're going to do with the multiverse saga. Is eventually they're going to use it as a way to reset to a single universe, but recast at the same time. They're going to like multiverse the crap out of every character, and then, oh wow, John Boyega's War Machine now. Okay,
Well, I mean, in a way, aren't they kind of doing that by having Robert Downey Jr. as friggin' Dr. Doom?
Right.
I mean, it's kind of starting that way.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, yeah. So moving on to the Winter Soldier, I think this for me is the best of the trilogy. What do you think?
No, but I mean, well, dude, it can't be. I mean, it can't, because first Avenger is my favorite Marvel movie, and it's one of my favorite movies ever. So Winter Soldier is absolutely amazing. And when we ranked the Marvel movies a couple years ago, I had Winter Soldier way up there. I don't have my rankings in front of me to say where I had it, but yeah, I had it way up there. I mean, it's an awesome movie.
That was definitely in that range of movies where Marvel was just banger after banger after banger.
Yeah.
Like you knew what you were in for with a Marvel movie. They had that formula down, and it was awesome every time.
Yeah. Well, I think what was really cool about that one is, coming on, okay, so Nick Hall
You
says
need
Winter
to finish that
Soldiers.
sentence. You cannot leave the phrase "coming on" and just trail off.
Don't be gross.
Hey, you said the best thing about that movie is coming on and just let it go. So I mean,
Yeah, my point about it was I was teasing my point. You pig. Nick Hall says Winter Soldier is the best movie made from the MCU objectively. It works without being a superhero movie. That is an awesome point. That is an awesome point. He follows up. He says, change Cap and Bucky to Jason Bourne and a KGB operative equal to Jason Bourne. Yeah, I think, and that's actually kind of Nick. That was actually kind of where I was going with that. Is that, coming on the heels of, First Avenger. You've got that one, which is like set, in the 1940s. It's like old school values, this, that, and the other, and then Winter Soldier is just as modern as it gets with espionage and all the tricky gadgets and everything. And like Nick said, it's like a Jason Bourne movie in a way. Like, yeah. I mean, I think Black Widow, her solo movie was much more like a Jason Bourne movie in feel, but which is why I love that movie as well. But yeah, I would agree with that because it's such a different shift, but it's still so goddamn good, and the story is great.
the line I love from that movie is when he's being shown all the helicarriers, and they're talking about was it Project Insight?
Yeah,
and he's like, "This isn't freedom. This is fear."
Yeah,
like that idea of like, yeah, okay, well, how many personal freedoms and privacies are you willing to give up for the veil of security?
Yeah. And I mean, that little back and forth with him and Nick Fury is just excellent because it just so clearly delineates the differentiation in thinking from Cap and the organization that he's like spearheading,
Mm-hmm.
and I just love that. It's just it's just a beautiful way to handle it. I think, and I just loved it.
Yeah. And also the misunderstanding on Shield's part and the government's part that think that Steve Rogers is just going to do what they say because they're America.
Yeah.
Like that,
Well,
that was fantastic when he was that's the crux of the whole movie, right? Is he's looking at what he's being told by his authority figures and having to say, no, just because my name is Captain America doesn't mean I do whatever America says.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that. Yeah, I mean, I think the whole thing just completely works. It establishes the fact that, Cap is not just, like you said, not going to play by the rules all the time. It's not just, yay, America, I'll do what you tell me. Like, he's like, wait a minute, this is fucked. I'm not cool with this. He goes along with the morals and his orders and everything as long as they coincide with his.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as it veers off into kind of that like gray area, he's like, no, that's not happening. Which is awesome. And especially when you pit him against something like, Hydra, who's been infesting Shield for years, as like a worm and all that kind of stuff. And it's just such an awesome juxtaposition and a great foil, another cliche. I'm full of cliches tonight. A great foil for Captain America, in the modern world. So,
and it was also, it put him in that middle ground too. If you look at like where he started from, where he was a tool of the machine, so to speak, right? Like, because as we said, like everything he believed was what his higher ups were telling him to support and believe as well. So they were aligned. And then this is the first movie where he's like, well, what do I do with this? Like, how do I support my country and my beliefs at the same time when they're at odds with each other?
Yeah.
So you see that it's like in pro wrestling, like the best pro wrestling storylines ever are where you start with a good guy and a bad guy. And then by the time they meet at WrestleMania, now it's the bad guy is the good guy and the good guy is the bad guy. Like Bret Hart and Stone Cold,
Yeah. No, that's a great analogy to make.
And this is the tweener. This is the tweener, because by the time you get to the third movie, then now you've got Iron Man, the original rebel who won't take shit from anybody and, won't surrender to the US government when they want to seize the Iron Man suit and technology, saying like, screw you, I know better than anyone. And then by the time you get to Cap 3, it's Iron Man saying, no, we should actually let ourselves be checked. We are a problem. And it's Captain America, the guy who was literally made by the government, saying, screw that. We need to be independent of this.
Yeah. Luke has spoken. He says, the quote unquote price of freedom speech gets me every time. And the one guy choosing not to follow Hydra because captain's orders. Chills. Yeah, I agree. I mean, the whole movie's just done so well. I was so happy when it was, when I went to the theater again, I was nervous because of how much I absolutely loved that first movie. And I'm one of those people that tries not to get my hopes up. I try to, and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is a perfect example. So many people hate it. And Phantom Menace is another good example where you've got this massive legendary trilogy that came before it. So people are like, oh, I want it to be on that level. It's like, well, it can't. It never, ever will be. Because in your mind, you've built that up in this legendary status, and rightfully so. So it's never going to be up there. It's just not going to. You're not going to get Raiders of the Lost Ark Part 2. You're not going to get Empire Strikes Back Part 2. So I went into those movies thinking, I just want to see a kick-ass Star Wars movie. I want to see a kick-ass Indiana Jones movie. I want to have fun. And I did. So I was like, oh, this is great. And the same thing with Captain America, Winter Soldier. I was like, look, there's no way this is going to live up to the first one for me. I just hoped I didn't come out of it being like, oh man, like maybe they were a one-trick pony with this character. Like, no, I came out of it like, oh my God, that was awesome. Like, that was so cool. And let's be honest, it also was kind of badass for us personally because it was shot in our city. So
yes,
when they're fighting on the streets, like I can't tell you how many of my friends we've taken downtown, and they said, "Dude, show me where Captain America's fighting." Like, ooh, it's right over here. So that doesn't hurt, but yeah, and bringing back the whole friendship angle with Bucky. So like you said, like Cap is torn, and I know you have a problem with it in a way, like saying, well, he's kind of going against orders, like to save the bad guy, so to speak. And I'm paraphrasing, but I thought that was pretty awesome. I mean, because I think what it establishes, is that you really start seeing that, the Avengers as a whole, that Steve Rogers really, like, you wonder, like, where would the Avengers go if Steve Rogers was not leading the charge? Because he's the one that was absolutely 100% unwavering in what he was willing to do. He's going to do the right thing.
He's the unwavering, uncompromising moral compass.
Yeah. And so it's like, when everything else is going to hell in a handbasket behind him, he's like, no, this is what I believe. This is what I'm doing. I'm not diverting from this. And I think you really start seeing that in this movie, which I think is just, it expands the character. Like, you already kind of knew it about him, I suppose, but I think it expands the character and makes him, I'm going to phrase this like a complete and total jackass, like a moron, but it makes him even more good. It's the only way I can really think to describe it. His morality is even stronger, and his resolve to retain that morality is even stronger. And
now, what did you think about Black Widow in this one? Because now that we moved on to the second movie and it's now post Avengers, now we've got like a larger Marvel universe sandbox to play in, and we've got Black Widow here, who, until COVID basically got her own movie, so she was only ever defined by how she bounced off of other characters instead of being the focal point herself. So how did you feel like that worked for you? Like this Russian operative with the ultimate American, white bread good boy.
I thought it was kind of interesting. It was I can't say off-putting. It was a little jarring at first to kind of see how she was portrayed in this one, because she wasn't like that in any other movie. Like, she was like chewing gum and being like slightly flirty and sexy. Like, it was like, okay, like, it was the only time they ever really showed her
will
like
they
that.
won't they, wasn't there? Yeah
And it was like, it was kind of like Wow, okay, that's interesting. I think it kind of humanized her in a way, which was kind of interesting. It made it a little more grounded, and I think when you saw that side of her, I thought that was kind of cool. So,
Mhm.
I've always liked that character in the MCU in the movies. I don't know shit about that character in the actual comic books, but
Yeah.
um, I don't know, something about that character I just thought was always kind of cool. Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
I couldn't even explain why. I mean, but
And I'm
yeah,
not sure on the
so
timeline. In my mind, though, I think this might be the first Marvel movie where another character in the franchise rode shotgun for the whole thing. Like instead of
uh
just a cameo or a name drop, I think this might be the first time that they were just in it throughout.
well, it wasn't first Avenger because Bucky dropped out when he fell off the train or got yeeted off the train, excuse me, to use your terminology. um, so there's that. By the way, Nick Hall, good point. He says that fight with Batroc was too short. Yeah. That's another reason this movie rules, because I had my all
GSP.
like yeah, my second favorite UFC fighter of all time, George St. Pierre. So um
Oh crap, Nick Hall. Yes, you're right. Sorry, Iron Man 2 did come out before this. Or did it? I think this was 2014. Yeah, Iron Man 2 would have been like 2011 or something like that.
Iron Man 2 was the first one after Avengers, wasn't it?
Something like that. Yeah, it was definitely before Cap 2. So yeah.
I'm gonna look up the release dates here, but see if we can find that. Yeah, I guess that really, yeah. Thank you for correcting us, by the way, man. Let's see. Phase 1. Oh no, yeah, how do we always forget this? So phase 1, here's the release order. Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2,
Mhm.
then Thor, then Captain America the First Avenger, then the Avengers.
Yeah, Captain America got in just under the wire before the Avengers.
Okay, yeah.
Like, I feel
Oh,
like
that's
that
right.
title of the first one was like deliberate because it was like a year before the Avengers, so they called it the
Yeah,
first Avenger. Like, okay, Avengers, we're doing this. Got it.
and then at the end it says Captain America will return in the Avengers or something like that at the end.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, okay, yeah, because phase 2 started out with Iron Man 3 and Thor: Dark World. Boy, to use your term, that's kind of a wet fart of an opening. Um,
Hmm.
but then they made up for it with Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers: Age of Ultron, which I think takes too much shit, and Ant-Man, which is underrated.
Phase 2 was fun. It
I
was
don't.
fun. Yeah. But yeah, this movie without Black Widow, I don't know who else could fill that role, but she was very necessary to like I guess for a character to like bounce off of with Steve Rogers,
Yeah,
because she's very savvy to like the modern world, like espionage and don't trust anybody and all that kind of stuff, and he's totally not that way. So
yeah.
he needed someone who had like the opposite worldview, so they could bounce off each other and compare ideals.
Well, I think, and to your point, that's I think, in that respect, she was perfect, because that's basically like I started out saying. Um, Excuse me, had to burp there. Didn't want to do it on the mic. Yeah, like we started out saying, it's very much a modern world espionage type of thing. So, you're not going to have Hulk running around like, he's driving around in a truck on the countryside with like, Bruce Banner trying not to lose his shit. It's
Right.
so I think having Black
Yeah.
Widow in there, I think it was the perfect choice, given the subject matter. So, you know, let's see. Chastity, here's I skipped the Incredible Hulk when I watched them in order because I don't feel like Edward Norton really works. Mark Ruffalo is a much better fit. And Luke has spoken again on the same page here. He says, plus it's also not that good, Chaz. Yeah, we that was
Mhm.
I don't remember if it was all of our last place film, but I know it was for me. That was it, when we ranked these movies, it was easy for me what last place was, because that was
I
just
think
not.
Thor: The Dark World was my last. No, Wait, oh, we were only doing the Infinity Saga. Okay, maybe we need to do re-ranking now that there's new worst movies out. We don't need to do our top movies. We just need to find out like where our basement lies.
I'll have a lot of movies to watch if that's the case.
Well, that right there tells you.
Yeah.
But yeah, Thor: The Dark World. There we go. Nick Hall, right there. It's not as boring as Thor: The Dark World. Exactly. I think that was in my last place of ranking those movies because that is pretty much a nothing burger of a movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, Cap 2 with Black Widow. And again, it's interesting rewatching these in hindsight because we've got all the context of like where the characters go from there. And like I feel like Steve Rogers had a huge impact on where she ended up as a character, like her moral compass and everything, right? And that's what I noticed in watching all these movies is like because he doesn't change at all. It's his effect on everybody else that we're following through this whole thing, right? You could really boil down all these movies to like, oh my God, how is Steve Rogers going to react to this? And the answer is the same way he always does. But in doing so, everybody around him is going to notice that and be like, shit, you give me a lot to think about, man.
Right. By the way, I'm looking at this release date thing. They've got stuff like all the way through Phase 6, and then it's got future films.
Yeah.
Apparently, after
you know,
Captain
by
America,
the time we get to Endgame and Infinity War, you got Captain America on the run, and who's with him? Natasha.
Yeah, true.
Like this pairing lasts through the rest of the Infinity Saga, and it starts right here in Cap 2. I love it. I love the continuity there. It makes sense. Like as much as you said it was weird kind of with their chemistry, I think that they actually worked really well together. Like she was surprisingly patient with him and all the shit that he didn't know and understand.
Well,
but
I
he
don't
was
think
also
it was
able to like teach her a little bit about maybe some stuff that she'd forgotten by being so steeped in all the ick of, you know, the deep state and espionage and whatnot.
Well, I don't think their chemistry was weird. I just meant when I said jarring, I just meant it was kind of jarring seeing her as like, you know, the flirty, you know, gum chomping kind of young woman type character as opposed to just being like the, you know, straight line hard ass, you know, secret agent. So
well, they really ramped her up fast, didn't they? Because she debuted in Iron Man 2. And she was interesting, of course. And then I think Avengers was her next appearance. So all of a sudden, like she's in this team up movie where she's apparently important enough to be an Avenger, and you're like, wow, that's good for you. That was you really climbed the ladder fast in that one.
Well,
and then,
I think the assumption there was that she was part of it. So, you know, I mean, she was always like working with Nick Fury behind the scenes, kind of a thing. So, but yeah, the first two Captain America movies, definite monster hits. I think Winter Soldier might have been my number 2. Now that I think back to it, because I'm trying to think of one that I like better. And I don't know that I can name one. Oh, the Eternals. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's our first sarcasm of the night. Speaking of a wet fart, I'd rather have a wet fart than watch the Eternals.
You're not wrong, man. If ever there was a movie that should have been a Disney Plus series, since we always criticize Disney Plus series because they should have been movies, yeah, that's one right there. Cap 3. I want to talk Cap 3 because I feel like that's the one that's got the most, you know, as we say, meat on the bone.
Yeah.
Like, as you say, it's Avengers 2.5. It's a Captain America movie, but like following on from this one where Cap 2 had one of the Avengers in it, and then Cap 3 is like, what if we just had like all the Avengers in it?
Yeah.
And some others. Like,
and introduce Spider-Man.
Like barely a Captain America movie at that point, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
In terms of like which ones you've watched the most, I'm assuming First Avenger is the one you've seen the most.
Oh yeah.
Now, Winter Soldier to Civil War, what's the one you've watched most recently?
Oddly enough, it is Civil War.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah, there he is. Spider-Man has entered the chat. Kale McLeish says, "You prefer a wet fart, but would you prefer to pound a gorilla fart or watch Eternals?" I would say gorilla
Gorilla
fart,
fart's over much faster.
and also at least the aftermath is fun. So there you go. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
the one I've watched most recently on it actually is Civil War.
Yeah, Civil War is a tough one for me. I'll be honest. It's got so much shit going on, right? Like it's not. I honestly forget that there's a villain in there when they actually get done fighting each other, and then it's like, oh yeah, there's also Baron Zemo. Like, oh shit, yeah, why are you here?
Speaking
Like,
of shitty villains,
it's like unnecessary to the plot at that point.
Yeah, that's one I would put way down my list of villains because I'm like, who is this guy? Get him out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I guess he's important in the comics, but he came out of nowhere in the movies.
I always think to myself when I see that, I'm like, what is this guy's hair up his ass? Like, what? His sister was killed by deep state operatives when she was hanging out with Jason Bourne, so now he's gonna go take on Avengers and shit. Like, the fuck? Because it's the same actor that plays like the brother of what's her name, Maria, in the Bourne movies, and so I'm like, okay, like, anyway, that was a tangent, but it's what I think.
He's got okay, so he was typecast. All right.
Yeah, and they serve about the same amount of purpose in each of the movies. He's in there for a blip in Born Supremacy, and he should have been there in a blip or not at all in Civil War. So,
yeah. And see, I'm trying to remember. So I know that this is like Spider-Man's first appearance. Was it also Black Panther's, or did the Black Panther solo movie come out first?
let me look. I've got it. I'm almost positive it was his first.
I'm pretty sure this is
first
the debut
appearance.
because the movie starts with the bombing at the UN, and that's what kills King T'Chaka.
Exactly. Yeah. It was. Yeah, because Civil War was the first film in Phase 3, and then you had Doctor Strange, Guardians 1, or no, sorry, Guardians 2, Spider-Man: Homecoming, Thor: Ragnarok, and then Black Panther. So you had 4 more movies after Civil War before you get to the Black Panther solo film.
Yeah, so all were great plot threads, but to me, I don't know how you feel about this, but I feel like just starting with that, like they bombed the UN, and now we got a new character out of it because lo and behold, he was a hero the whole time, who just hadn't revealed himself to the world yet.
Yeah,
that's a movie right there. That could have been Black Panther 1. It didn't even need to have everything else going on. And then you get into the whole like Avengers, let's choose sides over the Sokovia Accords kind of business. That's a movie right there. And then you've got Baron Zemo over here, which if they had more running time and developed that part of the script, that could have been a movie right there.
Yeah.
It's like there's so much crap in this movie. So where does it fall for you? Because it's a very important movie in the Marvel universe, but there's so much stuff on. So how do you feel about it?
I mean, it's obviously my third, if I was ranking 1 through 3 in this particular trilogy, it would be go in that order, 1, 2, 3.
Is this the Star Wars problem where something's got to be last, no matter how good it is?
No, I mean there are other Marvel movies I would rate ahead of Captain America, Civil War. I have to admit I was a little disappointed in Civil War. I don't think it was quite enough Captain America for me. And I just, like I say, Baron Zemo was a shitty villain. And the airport fight was awesome, and it definitely, did kind of come off as Avengers 2.5, which I was like, I would have preferred a more self-contained story. I mean, I understand why they had to do it that way, kind of establish that, there's tension in the group and they're not perfect, and kind of give them that, there's a couple factions within the group, and so they got to come back together and as a team better than ever to defeat Thanos, kind of a thing. I get that, but I think it would have been cooler had they focused on the whole plot thread of Cap knowing how Tony Stark's parents died, and then kind of getting more into them, like kind of getting into it. I think because that part of it was really cool. But I mean, it's a good movie. I mean, again, there's far worse ones. I just think that there were parts of it I was a little disappointed in, and it definitely to me doesn't hold up against the other two.
Yeah, for me, one of the things that really fell apart for me plot wise was I don't think you needed Bucky to be the one that killed Tony's parents. It's kind of like a small universe problem where, like, you could just say that, like, yeah, they died. Find some other way to link this together instead of being like, well, Tony hates Bucky and Cap will never abandon his best friend. So now we're fighting.
Right.
Like, man, couldn't it have been enough to just have things get out of control over the Tony says we should follow the Accords and Cap says, fuck to the no, we shouldn't.
Right.
Like, did we really need the whole, like, I'll defend Bucky even to my other friends storyline?
It's man, that's a hard one to answer. By the way, I looked it up, and that did happen in the comics where Bucky killed Howard and Maria Stark. Man, that's tough because man. I think it kind of makes sense in a way because with Cap's moral compass, he's kind of saying, like, I work with this one guy, but this other guy is, like, basically a brother to me. So that's where my allegiances lie. So I think it kind of works for that reason. But it is,
I could see that, yeah.
And I have to admit, when that was revealed in the film, I was kind of like, whoa, wait, really? Like, he knew about this and was kind of hiding it? Like, that's okay. So
that part was weird. In broad strokes, watching them back to back, though, my impression was that, we've already done in the second movie the Cap will do anything for Bucky storyline. So it just felt like a bit of a retread. It's just a different person trying to go against Bucky in this case.
Well, but I would disagree because I think it was, I mean, not that this isn't an obvious statement, but it was used as a way to get, it was the final thing that pushed Cap and Tony Stark over the edge to fight. Because that was the whole crux. I mean, remember when this was announced, all the Marvel fans were like, the comic fans were like freaking out because they're like, holy shit, like, that's the one where Captain America and Iron Man fight, and we're like, holy, really? So I think that was a good thing to use because you just, again, it would be kind of stupid to just go, Sokovia Accords, let's fight. That'd be kind of dumb. So I think it would take something a lot bigger to actually push one of them over that cliff, and it would have to be Tony Stark because Captain America is not going to fight one of his own friends out of anger or spite or something like that. So it's going to have to be Tony Stark. So I think using that as the catalyst was a good decision.
Yeah, I could see that. It's just it's tough because, like, if you think back to Avengers 1, they barely held it together right there. They were at each other's throats from the rip.
Yeah.
So it's one interesting that, throughout the other Avengers movies and everything that happened leading up to this movie, how it would be harder since then to get them to fight like they were willing to do as soon as they met each other. But also like if I had to broad stroke it, there's a soundbite I should not put out there. Anyway,
that's with you tonight. Go get laid.
Anyway, the story of Cap 2 for me is, I will fight my government for my best friend, and then Cap 3 is I will fight my friends for my best friend. So it's still kind of the same conflict. It's just a different group that Cap usually allies himself with that is in his way in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I mean, I could see
Now,
that.
again,
I mean,
like you said, it's true to the comics. So this isn't really the movie's problem, only insofar that they followed the comic book storyline. So maybe they could have found some other reason for this conflict to exist instead of following what the comics explained. But yeah, that was my hardest thing about it was like, man, Cap, we get it, man. Bucky's your ride or die, but you have ridden with him so friggin' hard. At some point, you got to be like, all right, man, enough's enough. I've been loyal, but I have to concede at some point. And apparently, no, never.
I think what I'm
especially
learning
because Bucky did a shitty thing. That was the hardest part. Was yes, Bucky was brainwashed, but Bucky did kill Tony's parents. And maybe that's the point. Is so we're not really sure as an audience. Like you can pick your sides. You can make a case for both.
Yeah,
I don't know if
Nick
that makes
Hall
for a better
says it.
movie or not, though.
Maybe not. Again, I like the way they did it. Nick Hall, he says Tony wanted vengeance and Bucky wasn't Bucky. He was brainwashed. I get why Cap defended him. Okay, so and he also says in the comics, in the comics, it's literally the Accords, and then a clone of Thor kills a Cap side hero. Okay.
All right, movies did it better.
Yeah,
I'll give him that one.
Yeah, I think what I'm learning is that I shouldn't trust you as much as I do, because you're going to Tony Stark my ass, whereas I would just be Captain America. So
no matter how brainwashed I am, you've always got my back.
Of course. But if you want to turn on me and shit, But the good news is that I wouldn't kill your parents or parent.
Oh, now who's getting dark? Damn.
Well, one of them's gone. What can I say? So at least there's that. But yeah, now that we discuss it, I could see where you're coming from, like in terms of the whole, he fought his government for his best friend. Now he's fighting.
I just wish Bucky wasn't the crux again.
So why do you have a problem with that? Because I kind of like it.
Because it's already been done.
But I think they did it in a different enough way to where it's,
like imagine if in Empire Strikes Back, for example, that
I was just thinking this, and I was
rather than Luke
go there.
getting bodied and falling down the chasm in Cloud City, like that fight had continued, and it was this conflict of Luke being like, well, I don't want to die, but he really is evil. Like, what do I do? And basically, you could just fast forward the Return of the Jedi fight to Empire Strikes Back at that point, right? He's like, I don't want to fight you. Like, you mean too much to me. I cannot bear the thought of hurting you or killing you. And then you saw it again in Return of the Jedi. That's what I feel like this was. Especially because Bucky joins in the damn fight against Iron Man. Like, dude, I get why Cap's. Okay, the guy who's fighting your friend is the son of the people you killed. You shouldn't be fighting him. They should have written him out somehow so it was just Cap and Tony. But for Bucky to be like, yeah, I killed your parents. By the way, I'm going to try to kill you now too.
Well, I mean, he's getting his friends back. I mean, it's kind of like the I'm returning the favor moment, isn't it?
Yeah, but as, quote, good guys, it's a 2-on-1 fight. And the other reason that Tony's all out of sorts is because the only guy who had any major consequences from that airport battle was his best friend, Rhodey.
Yeah, true.
So the whole point of like, I'm getting my friends back. Like, well, I don't have a friend here because he got wrecked in our last fight. So it's like, you already won this, but you're going to keep coming after me anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I don't know. I just see, until you just explained it, like I didn't really think about it that way, to be honest with you, because it wasn't at least to me, it wasn't so in your face that it's like, I'm fighting for my best friend. Like, I mean, it's there, yeah, but the other story, when I think of the third movie, I'm not thinking, oh, it's all about Bucky again. You know what I mean? So whereas your Star Wars example, it's like the two main the main protagonist, the main antagonist, both times. So I could see that, you know, it'd be like, I guess I would say I could see it if you had a problem with it, if it was like Red Skull was, you know, he escaped in one, then he's fighting Red Skull again, and then he's fighting Red Skull again. Like, God damn it, we get you're fighting Red Skull. But I didn't get that vibe off of Civil War because I was too busy kind of, you know, I was zeroed in on the inter-Avengers conflict, you know, them not getting along. And then
now the thing I will absolutely give
ass.
it credit for is the fact that they were able to take, like I said, the guy who absolutely represented the establishment in his debut is now the guy who is giving the finger to the establishment. And the guy who hated the establishment when he debuted is now saying, I respect the establishment.
Yeah.
So the way they were able to switch sides, and in both cases, it wasn't weird. Like, neither of that was like a contrivance where you're like, oh, do I really believe that that's what that character would do? It's like, no, that's exactly what would happen.
Yeah.
That is exactly what would happen. I love that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think the other cool thing about it, for me anyway, Chesty Crawley. When I first heard the title Civil War, I wanted it to be Cap fighting in the actual Civil War. so yeah, it's going to be the Captain America, the First Avenger, Captain America Civil War, and eventually they're going to have Captain America the Spanish American War. Like, God damn, this guy goes all over the place. But yeah, I think what another aspect that made this movie pretty cool was the whole Sokovia Accord thing, because you kind of don't really think about it. You know, I think it really kind of grounded the story in a little bit more realism than you had, because I mean, we see all the devastation. You know, you're tearing up New York, you're tearing this up, you're tearing that up, but you know, it's just cannon fodder, you know, to that point. But then all of a sudden, when they bring in the whole storyline of, well, okay, like, you're saving us, but you're also costing us like $1 billion to redo the city. Like, you're writing us a check. Like, you guys need to check yourselves. I was like, that's pretty cool, because it, you know, that there is a realistic, you know, kind of cost to all this.
That's a perfect jumping off point for your Avengers 2 Age of Ultron is better than people give it credit for speech. Is like the ultimate consequence of that was the villain existed because Tony Stark did a thing, and the consequences bit him in the ass.
Yeah.
And it resulted in an entire city being levitated miles in the air and plummeting to the ground.
Yeah.
Killing a whole lot of people.
Yep.
So his whole idea of like, I want to protect everybody. Well, you just killed a bunch by your efforts to protect them. So how do you feel now, bud?
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
That is actually a really cool concept. And the fact that it has these ripples throughout the entire Marvel universe as a result was kind of a stroke of genius.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I like that. Sorry.
Yeah. As much as that movie itself wasn't the best Avengers movie, the concepts sure were. And they gave them a ton of plot threads to pull on subsequent movies.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I think setting the tone of, you know, I just think it kind of added more gravity to what came after it, you know, the Sokovia Accords and all that, because
poor choice of words, dude. Sorry. Sokovia knows all about gravity.
Yes, they do. Yeah, no, I just think it, you know, after that it was, because before it was, you know, it was comic book-y. You didn't have a real world consequence, and now that you did, you were kind of looking at the subsequent movies kind of with that in the back of your mind, like when something gets absolutely destroyed, you're going, oh, that's not good, you know, like, what the hell, you know, you're looking at stuff like, Spider-Man when they're blowing all kinds of shit up. You're like, okay, and Spider-Man might be a bad example because that's about the most grounded ones that they have. But still, even still, you're looking at that stuff going, oh man, like there's a real thing going on here. So, especially in like what the hell? Why am I forgetting the name of the damn Infinity War and Endgame? There we go. Especially in those where the universe is blowing up and all these different parts of the world are blowing up. It just added a little bit more weight to the whole thing. And I really liked that. I thought that was a really cool thing that they did. And I know it was in the comics, but I thought it was a great thing to bring into the comics personally. So I really, really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it's the other thing I think is cool about this is like, yeah, the guy's named Captain America, but really like by the time you get to especially the third one and then into like Infinity War and Endgame, he doesn't represent America, right? Like he's actually an enemy of the state. So
yeah,
even make that joke in Spider-Man. Like, I think this guy is like a war criminal now, but just watch the video anyway.
Yeah.
So like it becomes like a brand of sorts that almost like disassociates itself from its meaning, because it was originally written as like he's the ultimate patriot, right? And he represents our country. And then he just kind of goes off and forms his own legend where the name is disassociated from the country that's literally in his name. And I think that's really interesting because they've moved forward since this trilogy with this whole idea, at the end of Endgame, he hands the shield over to Sam Wilson. And which great, he's an army vet and he's fought in the Avengers. So he's got credentials, but isn't it weird, this idea to like hand off the mantle to somebody else, when the thing that I keep seeing online, and people said it before, is like Captain America didn't make Steve Rogers. Steve Rogers made Captain America. Like Steve Rogers was always Steve Rogers, and then he just put a better name on him, really. It wasn't like he stepped into the role and, became a hero because they gave him the name Captain America. He was always heroic. And then he just gave him a platform and a name. So it's weird to like, the name Captain America says, yes, this is representing the United States, but it really is Steve Rogers. Like, that's your problem. You tried to get into Falcon and Winter Soldier, for example, and you just like didn't care, right?
It didn't hold my interest, which bummed me out because I like both characters. But yeah, I had and I know this is how it goes in the comics, but I kind of, when people say, oh, however you just phrased it, like, Steve Rogers made Captain America or whatever. So, say, okay, Sam Wilson would make Captain. To me, it's like, okay, but the whole thing about Captain America is the super soldier serum. Like, he's, strong and invincible and all this, and Sam Wilson is not. So it's like, now you can easily kill Captain America. I'm like, well, that doesn't track. That's like making Iron Man Tin Man. Like, basically like a glop of bird shit at speed will rip his arm off, kind of a thing, Like, what the hell is that? Like, that's no good. Like,
yeah, and this whole idea that the mantle of anyone, Captain America, Iron Man, Black Panther, whatever, is like a job title, and you could just hand it off to somebody else.
Yeah,
it is tough. It is tough. Like when Cap decided to stay back in the 40s at the end of the time heist and just live his life out with Peggy. Great for him, but you can't just hand off the shield and be like, yeah, you do this job now. Like, you made that your own.
Yeah.
Like, Sam Wilson can still be a hero without being Captain America. Captain America, to me, is Steve Rogers.
Yeah. No,
I did watch that series, and I'm pumped for Cap 4, but at the same time, like, it doesn't feel right for him to be calling himself Captain America.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna go back and actually finish that series before the fourth one comes out, because I at least want to educate myself and get more into it and everything. But yeah, it's weird. And honestly, you know what else is going to be very difficult for me is seeing Harrison Ford. And dude, and you know what? And this is
I wonder
so
how many Jack
wrong.
Ryan jokes we're gonna get.
Yeah, right. This is so wrong, and I know it. But I think I mentioned this on a previous show. When we saw Harrison Ford at Celebration the last time in 2022 in Anaheim, like he came out for the Lucasfilm panel, right?
Mhm.
And we were like, "Oh my god!" But you could tell he's like talking slow and moving slow. Like, man, he's an old man. But now here he is in a Marvel movie. I'm like, it's getting harder for me to suspend disbelief. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Some of this
So-
cross pollination has to stop. Like I'm also having a hard time with Sidewinder in Cap 4. Like, no, that's Moff Gideon.
right? And that guy's in everything.
Mhm.
Holy, like Esposito,
Yeah.
Giancarlo Esposito. Like, dude, he's in everything.
Mhm.
Like, holy crud, man. Like, I just, I just with the whole like Sam Wilson as Cap thing, I'm like, just do something different. Just bring back Chris Evans as Steve Rogers and have him like, shoot out of there. And then, instead of coming back and sitting on the bench as an old man, he just comes back as Captain America like a split second later, like, wait, what the hell are you doing here? He's like, oh, the bitch divorced me. She cheated on me. So basically his relationship with Peggy goes to shit. And he's like, all right, fuck this. I'm going back to being Captain America. That didn't
And they
work.
could even age him up a little bit. Like they could say like, yeah, we made it into like the 50s. We were together for like 10 years. Turns out she was a commie. McCarthyism got her. The Red Scare.
McCarthyism. There's some real world shit like
Right?
gravity and the Sokovia Accords. We've got McCarthyism.
Be like, yeah. The reason I look about 10 to 15 years older is because, well, I was in the past for 10 to 15 years.
That's fabulous. That's amazing. Yeah, she turned out to be a commie. That'd be great. Plot twist. Yeah. It's the what if, the MCU what if.
Yeah. But I will admit that this show topic was premeditated.
Okay.
Wanted to goose the algorithm because there's all this Cap 4 hype coming out.
Nice.
But I wanted to time it for now instead of the week of the release of Captain America, because I am planning another live watch along for the week of the release of Captain America. And we were doing a watch along just like we did Loki season 1 to introduce the TVA to everybody before Deadpool and Wolverine. We're going to be doing a watch along of Falcon and Winter Soldier leading up to the release of Captain America New World Order. Sorry, that was the first title, Brave New World.
There you go.
They actually did retitle it. Do you remember that?
What was the original one again? I'm trying to like.
I know I'm setting you up here. New World Order.
That's right. Okay. No. No. I will not earn points on the show doing that.
Okay, I thought you were going to bust out, Hollywood Hogan's theme. Anyway,
no, not that. It'd be. I would have done the Megadeth song, but
also that's what I thought when they named it. But anyway, yeah. So the week of the release of Captain America 4, Brave New World, which would begin on February 10th. The week of February 10th, which is a podcast week for us. So the schedule is yet to be determined. You got to stay glued to our socials for that. But yeah, we'll be doing 2 episodes a night on 3 nights that week to watch the entire series of Falcon and Winter Soldier to catch you up between the events of Endgame when the shield gets handed off from Steve Rogers to Sam Wilson, and then get you caught up on all the Marvel events that matter leading up to Captain America 4, Brave New World.
Awesome. Well, that'll be cool. How many episodes was that show? Was it 6?
Mm-hmm. So we do 2 episodes on 3 live streams. Yep.
2 episodes. How long were those episodes?
They're typical Disney Plus fare, so it's going to be an hour and a half roughly per stream.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's not bad.
Yeah.
All right. Wow. Look at Chastity Crawley. She divorced him because he wouldn't tell her if she should invest in Apple. Nice. That's awesome. Oh my gosh. Sorry, I had to mute for a second. I had to cough there. All right, man. Well, Well, I guess that about does it for our Captain America Steve Rogers trilogy recap here. So yeah, I'm final thoughts here. Obviously, we've gone over how much I love First Avenger and Winter Soldier's damn close. Civil War, pretty good. I think I got a little bit more of an appreciation for it having discussed it here tonight. So thank you for bringing up this topic. Yeah, I'm excited for Captain America: Brave New World as well, because it seems not multiverse-y, so I can get behind it more than one of those other dumb movies where it's like, I mean Red Hulk is pretty interesting. That's kind of cool. So and I just, I think it's gonna be I think it's gonna be a fun movie. As much as I may not get behind the whole idea of Sam Wilson as Captain America, him flying around in the Falcon gear, but with Cap shield and painted up like Cap, like that's pretty cool. And having a Hulk running around kicking ass, and the Hulk is Harrison Ford. That doesn't suck.
And the president, yeah. I'm wondering what
Yeah.
that's like. How do you deal with a president who's a Hulk?
Yeah. Why don't you ask America now? But
Oh, zinger!
I have no horse in the current political race. I want to make that clear. I just had to make that joke because it's just it's topical. So yeah, that was not me being coy and kind of subtly giving away my beliefs. But yeah, I think it's gonna be cool. Yeah, no, well, I wasn't meaning it one way or the other. So there we go. Your final thoughts.
My final thoughts. One, I didn't have the idea until we got on the stream tonight about this idea of maybe doing a series of episodes on the show here with specific heroes trilogies, but I love that idea. I would love to know from the audience if you love that too. So hit us up on the socials. But overall, yeah, like I said, I was really struck by the idea in watching these back to back to back that it's not so much the journey that Steve Rogers goes on and comes out the other end a different person. It's that Steve Rogers just stays being Steve Rogers as the environment changes around him.
Yep.
And the effect that he, being this immovable object, has on all the characters that he interacts with.
Yeah.
Which I love that because it's like a total inverse of a usual dramatic structure. So I think that the hardest thing to do is move on from Steve Rogers, Chris Evans' version of Captain America, because it was so good and it literally is timeless. So
yeah,
I don't know what Cap 4 is going to bring us, but I'm very interested to see how they handle it, and if they bring his Captain America back at some point in the future, like through multiverse or time travel shenanigans,
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you with that. I just, if they do bring him back, oh God, I hope the recast, just please don't. But they've got Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom, so maybe they'll have like Chris Evans as like the Silver Surfer or something. Who knows? So I guess
look,
I guess
as long
we'll
as
see.
he's still in Marvel shape, they've got the de-aging technology. So just have Chris Evans and spend the money on erasing the wrinkles,
Yeah. Nope. Totally agree, man. Totally agree. So,
Mhm.
All right, guys, that will do it for another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. Thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate it. We are here again on Wednesday. It will be, let me think, for Wednesday, February 12th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Obviously, we will be on our Facebook page and YouTube channel, as well as that of the Virtual Cantina Network. Guys, remember, we are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. If you'd like to get Virtual Cantina Network swag, go to tpublic.com/user/virtual-cantina. And if you'd like to get some amazing customizable Nerf Herder Council swag, you can choose from any number of logos that AJ has designed, and they all look great. Just go to shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. Yeah, so many thanks to everybody in the chat. As always, Nick Hall, who is our comic expert, so appreciate that. Lucas Spoken, great to see you again. Great job on that Dream Theater track, man. Luke did a fully orchestral version of like a 17-minute Dream Theater song, and it's like he actually wrote it out himself, and he sent it over to me. It's awesome. Very, very good. So Chastity Crawley, great to see you. Joseph Wren, appreciate you. Billy Judd, great to see you. John Godfrey, DQ, all you guys. Kale McLeish, of course. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. John Phillips. And again, we will be right back here on Wednesday, February 12th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And before we
if
go,
you want to tune into the live streams of Falcon and Winter Soldier that week, stay glued to our socials. I will be announcing the times that we are going live for that. And let's have a watch along and comment on that stuff as we go.
Yep. And one last programming note, AJ and I, or at least I, if AJ remembers to jump on this time because he forgot to get on the meeting last night. AJ and I will be doing some virtual Cantina Network programming the week of Star Wars Celebration Japan. That will be on either Friday, April 18th or Saturday, April 19th, and we'll be doing a news recap from that day's events at Star Wars Celebration Japan. So make sure you keep your eyes peeled for that, because there's some cool stuff that should be coming out from that particular celebration. I actually have it on good authority. I think I know some of the main panels already, so it should be kind of interesting. So we'll be doing some virtual Cantina News Desk. I think they call it CNN or something like that, like Cantina News Desk or something like that, Cantina News Network or something. But yeah, so we will be filling in as guest hosts. Fuck it, I'm flaming out. All right, until next time, I'm your host JT. He is AJ.
Drake Adams 579,
and we will catch you guys later. Nice ending, dickhead.